If you have 8x equaling negative 736, you are looking for 8 times what is negative 736? Okay, so in effect, x is the other factor that's getting multiplied by 8. Well, whenever you have a multiplication problem missing a factor, x being the factor that we're missing, you divide by the one you know. Colton, you with me over there? Divide by the one you know, leaving us with whatever the result of negative 736 divided by 8 is. Negative 92 is right. And in the blue book, the pre-alg book, my students are learning this right now. Like Ethan said, the blue book's like a freight train, and this year's like a review. So to check it, 8 multiplied by negative 92 had better equal negative 736. And if you throw that in your calculator and you do find out that it does equal negative 736, you're okay. Remember that it doesn't matter if the items being multiplied are on the right or on the left. The process is still the same. Okay, you would still divide by the factor that you know. Negative 36 is 9 times what? You would divide by the one you know, giving you your answer. Okay, those are some simple multiplication examples. Example 2 has us looking at other multiplication examples, but only with fractional coefficients. Something like this, for example. Shoot, hold on, that should be a 2. 2/3 multiplied by s is equal to 4 1/3. Not a whole lot more difficult, but it can be if you're not careful. 2/3 multiplied by something is 4 1/3. Up here we divided, right? Well, we can't divide by fractions, so we have to multiply by the coefficient of the factor we have. Multiply by the coefficient of the known factor. What in the world does that mean? I'll show you here in a second. Okay, before I show you that though, when you're multiplying or dividing fractions, you cannot work with mixed numbers. It's either got to be a fraction or it isn't. So this one here becomes 13/3. And I know some of you don't need this additional writing, but I'm doing it for myself as much as I'm doing it for you. So we can't divide by 2/3 because it's a fraction, so we're going to multiply by the coefficient of 2/3, which is 3/2. Remember, a reciprocal, multiply by the reciprocal of the coefficient. Geez, reciprocal of the coefficient. Reciprocal. So 3/2. This gives us a 1s, and this cancels out our 3's. 13/2 is going to be your end result. By the way, 13/2 is an acceptable answer in algebra. Back when you were in 6th grade, I would have said improper fraction, and you would have had to tell me 6 1/2, right? In algebra, improper fractions are completely acceptable answers because that's what you utilize anyway, all right? So if you want to write this as 6 1/2, fine. But when you check in the back and look at odds, if I were to assign odds, this is the answer you're going to see. It won't be 6 1/2, so don't think you're wrong, okay? Any questions on multiplying by the reciprocal of, for division? All right. So these two, example 1 and 2, were technically multiplication problems. 8 times x, 9 times w, 2/3 times s. Example 1 and 2 were multiplication problems. Example 3 is going to have division problems. So here we go. Here's example 3. Let me find one. Here we go. Here's one. T divided by 2 is -5. This is a division problem. When performing a division problem and you are missing the divisor, that's the divisor. To solve when you are missing the divisor, no, dividend, sorry, dividend, boy oh boy. That's the dividend. You multiply by the divisor. Multiply by the divisor. That's a 2. And when you multiply by that divisor, remember that the 2 is 2 over 1, if that helps you. Canceling out the 2's, giving you a -10 as the value for t. If you wanted to check it, -10 cut in half, does it equal -5? It sure does. You guys know how division works with positives and negatives, so you should be just fine with that. I'm going to give you one more example. Here's one for you. 0 is equal to -x divided by 5. Now, that fraction being negative means either the x or the 5 is negative. I wrote it so that it's like next to the x, but anytime you have a fraction that's negative, that means one piece or the other piece is negative, because a fraction is technically a division problem. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. So -x is equal to 0, which means x is 0. This one doesn't flip. Just wanted you to see that. And I have one more that wasn't in your examples. Here we go. This is the last thing. You're going to want this one, I promise you. -y divided by 12, which means one of these pieces has to be, in order for this to have a negative quotient, is equal to 1 over 4. So based on this, I am looking for the dividend, so I'm multiplying by the divisor. Multiply by 12 over 1, multiply by 12 over 1. My 12's cancel. My 4 and 12 reduce to become a 3, which means the opposite of y, -y, because I kept the negative with the y. I could have kept it with the 12. Either or has to be negative in order for this division quotient to have a negative answer. -y equals 3. I don't care about -y. I want to know what y is. Flip the sign of y. Flip the sign of the answer. To check yourself, take this -3 and plug it in for y. -3, remember that's a -y, divided by 12. Does that equal 1/4? It does. Okay, watch out for that. If there is a negative symbol preceding the variable goes in here. So even if the variable is negative, that still keeps that negative symbol, which is why I wrote it that way. +3 over 12 is equal to 1/4. This is all